Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulihil Kareem ma ba'd. Last class number 5, we took Munaza'atul Qadr, resisting the Qadr, Al-Amr bil Ma'roof wa Nahi anil Munkar, commanding good and forbidding evil, Daf'ul Qadr bil Qadr, not equating the good doers and the evil doers, the inconsistency, the contradictions of the people who use Qadr as an excuse, and how bid'ah and al-ihtijaj bil Qadr sababan fi radd al-rusul. There were two main reasons for rejection of the messengers. وتقديم القياس على النص والهوى على أمر الله. We took halawatul iman, the sweetness of faith. We took pillars of acceptance of every deed. And we took the concept of synonymous terms. And today is a very nice class. We won't even tell you what it's about, no spoilers. We're just going to jump right into it, inshallah. تفضل.
Alhamdulillah, والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله أما بعد. غفر الله لنا ولشيخنا والسامعين. قال المؤلف رحمه الله تعالى: فصل في التفاضل بالإيمان. إذا تبين ذلك.
Did he say rahimahullah تفصل في التفاضل بالإيمان? He didn't say that. No. That's not from Ibn Taymiyyah.
إذا تبين ذلك فمعلوم أن الناس في هذا الباب يتفاضلون فيه تفاضلا عظيما، وهو تفاضلهم في حقيقة الإيمان، وهم ينقسمون فيه إلى عام وخاص، ولهذا كانت ربوبية الرب سبحانه لهم فيها عموم وخصوص وضروب.
If the above is clear, then it is obvious that people will differ greatly in this regard, i.e. the reality of Iman. Thus, they may be divided into two types, rank and file, am, and elite, khas, and the relationship of Allah to different people will differ accordingly.
If the above is clear, what is the above? Yeah, what is it? It says here in the book, page 61, if the above is clear. What's the above? It's definitely not that title, right? Different levels of Iman, that's what it might seem like if you're reading the English book. فَكَمَالِ الْمَخْلُوقِينَ, the perfection, or the فَكَمَالِ الْمَخْلُوق, the perfection of the creation. في تحقيق عبوديته لله. نعم. So إذا تبين ذلك, if that is clear, if the above is clear, which is that the more perfect a person's ubudiyyah is, then the more perfect they are. فمعلوم, then it's also obvious أن الناس يتفاضلون في هذا الباب تفاضلا عظيما. The different levels of people, they differ greatly in this regard. صح? Like the people's level of their ubudiyyah differs greatly, which means that their perfection also differs greatly. وهو تفاضلهم في حقيقة الإيمان, and it is their differing levels of Iman. How did we get on the topic of Iman? Why Iman? Where did Iman come from? We were talking about ubudiyyah. We were talking about worship. Where did Iman come in the picture? Why is Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah talking about Iman? So the hadith al-Imanu, the hadith that's muttafaqun alayh, that's in Bukhari and Muslim, and the narration of Muslim specifically, al-Imanu bid'un wa sab'una aw bid'un wa sittuna shu'ba. Iman is 70 some or 60 some odd branches. Iman is 70 or 60 something branches. فأفضلها قول لا إله إلا الله. And the most virtuous of them, the highest of them is what? Is the statement La ilaha illallah. And La ilaha illallah obviously has to do with what? Ibadah. So in that hadith you learn Iman is 70 branches, and the highest of Iman is what? Is Ibadah. Tamam? And the actualization of La ilaha illallah, الناس يتفاوتون. People differ in their belief of La ilaha illallah. Everybody sitting here in this room, you guys don't all believe in La ilaha illallah the same. Your belief in La ilaha illallah is not the same. Some of you believe in it more than others. Some of you, your Iman is higher than others. And that becomes clear based off of your actions. And complete Tawheed negates having any shirk and having any of its branches. Which brings us to that next point that we're going to get to in a second. When we talk about the divisions, قال ابن تيمية رحمه الله فمعلوم أن الناس يتفاضلون في هذا الباب تفاضلا عظيما. How many different types of Muslims do we have? Everybody believes in La ilaha illallah, but there are different levels. How many different types of believers do we have? Huh? 3? What are the 3? Muslim, mu'min and muhsin. طيب. What else? Huh? We took this in the Khamsin Hadith when we studied the Khamsin Hadith. The ayah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ثم أورثنا الكتاب الذين اصطفينا من عبادنا فمنهم ظالم لنفسه. فمنهم ظالم لنفسه. Who is ظالم لنفسه? Who is oppressing himself? Who are we talking about? Believers or non-believers? The ayah says ثم أورثنا الكتاب الذين اصطفينا من عبادنا. So it's talking about believers. فمنهم يعني من المؤمنين ظالم لنفسه ومنهم مقتصد وَمِنْهُمْ سَابِقٌ بِالْخَيْرَاتِ بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. These are the three types of believers. And each of these groups break into their groups. And each of them have a lot of subgroups. So the ظَالِمٌ لِنَفْسِهِ. Who is the ظالم لنفسه? The one who بِفِعْلِ الْمَنْهِيَاتِ وَتَرْكِ الْمَأْمُورَاتِ. And which one of those is worse? Leaving off the commandments or doing the prohibitions? What's worse? Leaving the commandments, the obligation is worse than doing the prohibitions. So these people, they do both. They do haram, and doing haram is both what? Leaving off the wajib and doing the haram. So that's one group of believers. They do that. They do haram. And they leave off wajibat. وَمِنْهُمْ مُقْتَصِدٌ. And then of them they are what? مُقْتَصِد. ما معنى مقتصد? Yeah. Nah, they do just what has to be done. فعل المأمورات وترك المنهيات. They do the ma'murat, the commandments, and they leave off the manhiyat. They leave off what's haram. But that's it. يقتصرون على ذلك. They just stop on that. And ومنهم سابق بالخيرات فعل المستحبات وترك المكروهات. These people, they go above and beyond. They also do the mustahabbat and they leave off the makruhat. They go to another degree. So these are the three levels of believers. And if you guys remember in the class Khamsin Hadith, we talked about what the different conditions of these people are. So if you want to be from those who might enter the hellfire and then enter Jannah, then you'll be from those who are ظالمون نفسي. Or if you want to be judged يوم القيامة and then enter Jannah, you'll be from those who are muqtasid. And if you don't even want to receive a hisab and you want to go straight to Jannah, then you should be from the سابق بالخيرات. And that was a very nice class that we took. Go back to that and review that. Tamam? And the Messenger ﷺ, he said, when it comes in the hadith that's narrated in Al-Bukhari, بينما أنا نائم رأيت الناس يعرضون علي. While I was sleeping, I seen the people being presented in front of me. وعليهم قمص. And they were all wearing shirts or garments. منها ما يبلغ الثدي. Some of them merely covering their chests. Some shirts, people that come into me, some of them their shirt just covers their chest and doesn't cover anything else. Small shirt. وَمِنْهَا مَا يَبْلُغُ دُونَ ذَلك. And some of them even shorter than that. وَمَرَّ عَلَيَّ عُمْرُ بْنُ الْخَطَّابِ. And Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, he comes and he passes by me. وَعَلَيْهِ قَمِيصٌ يَجُرُّهُ. And he has a garment that he's dragging from how long his shirt was. So they asked, they said, قالوا ما أولت يا رسول الله. O Messenger of Allah said, what did you interpret from that dream? قال الدين. He said, that is the deen. That's the level of a person's religion, iman, ibadah, tawheed. This is the levels that the people have. So we learn the hadith, we learn in the ayah that what? People are يتفاضلون. Their iman is not all the same. There's different levels of iman. And for the people who are hoping, and we should be from them, hoping for the highest level of Jannah, صح? The Prophet said, if you ask for Jannah, ask for al-Firdaus. Don't just say, oh, as long as I get into Jannah. Everything in Jannah is great and there's no ghira in Jannah, as long as I get into Jannah. No, don't think like that. A person should aim for what? The highest level of Jannah. For those hoping for the highest level of Jannah, you cannot expect to go there while having the lowest level of deen. If you want to be in the highest level of Jannah, then you have to have the highest level of deen. So striving in this life has its reward in the next life, and being lazy has its consequences. Wallahu musta'an. طيب, next. He said, وَهُمْ يَنْقَسِمُونَ فِيهِ إِلَى عَامٍ وَخَاصٍ. We mentioned this before, the Ubudiyyah al-'am wal-khas, that the people, they break into their categories. There's elite, there's special, and then there's just general. وَلِهَذَا كَانَتْ رُبُوبِيَّةُ الرَّبِّ لَهُمْ فِيهَا عُمُومٌ وَخُصُوصٌ. And we mentioned this before. نعم ولهذا كان
ولهذا كان الشرك في هذه الأمة أخفى من دبيب النمل. وفي الصحيح عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال: تعس عبد الدرهم، تعس عبد الدينار، تعس عبد القطيفة، تعس عبد الخميصة، تعس وانتكس، وإذا شيك فلا انتقش، إن أعطي رضي وإن منع سخط.
Hence, in this ummah, the issue of shirk is subtler than the noise made by the footsteps of an ant. According to a Sahih hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Wretched is the slave of the dirham and the slave of the dinar, and the slave of velvet and brocade. He is doomed to failure. If he is afflicted with a thorn, may he not be able to remove it. If he is given, he is content, but if he is not given, he becomes angry."
How does Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah now get on the topic of shirk? Why are we talking about shirk now? It says, وَلِهَذَا كَانَ الشِّرْكُ فِي هَذِهِ الْأُمَّةِ. And it is for this reason that the shirk in this ummah, أخفى, is more subtle. It's more hidden. Min dabib al-namil, it's dabib al-namil, than the crawling of an ant. Where does he get this from? Because we were talking about iman. We were talking about iman. And what's the relationship between iman and shirk? They're the opposites. وَبِضِدِّهَا تَتَمَيَّزُ الْأَشْيَاء. By knowing the opposite of something, the thing becomes clear. So you need to know the opposite of it. You need to know what destroys your iman. What is it that's eating away at our iman? It's shirk. And we shouldn't feel safe when it comes to shirk. None of us in this room should feel safe. Because as he says, it's like the crawling of the ant in this ummah. Where does he get that from? Because he jumps to a different hadith about being a slave and a worshipper of the dollar and the dirham. Where does he get that idea from? That the shirk of this ummah is like the crawling of an ant? From the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ himself. He said in the hadith that is sahih, الشرك فيكم يعني في هذا الأمة. The shirk amongst you, the Prophet said, أخفى من دبيب النمل. Then it's more subtle than the crawling of an ant. Then he said, the Prophet ﷺ, he would never give a problem without giving a solution. صح? For a young shabab giving khutbahs, don't just get on the minbar and complain all day long. Give people a solution. What's the solution? The Prophet he tells us here, سأدلك على شيء إذا فعلته. I'm going to show you something if you do it. If you do it, and then he teaches us a قول. لأن القول هي فعل. The speech is a فعل. إذا فعلته أذهب عنك صغار الشرك وكباره. The small shirk and the big shirk is going to be removed from you. تقول اللهم أعوذ بك أن أشرك بك وأنا أعلم وأستغفرك لما لا أعلم. Last week we gave you guys a hadith, a dua to memorize. Today we're giving you a dua to memorize. What was the dua from last week? Who memorized it? This dua you guys better memorize. This one's even easier. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika an ushrika bika wa ana a'lam. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika. Oh Allah, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika. Oh Allah, I seek your refuge. An ushrika bika wa ana a'lam. While I know. Wa astaghfiruka lima la a'lam. 2 sentences. Very easy. Memorize this dua. The Prophet himself taught us that this state protects you from shirk. The big shirk and the minor shirk. So we should be saying this dua often to protect you from that shirk. Because al-Ubudiyyah, just like water extinguishes fire, shirk is going to extinguish your iman. All the small amounts of shirk that we're going to do. And Ibn Taymiyyah is about to go into that topic now. The different kinds of shirk that eat away at your iman. That's what today's class is about. And it's going to be a very beneficial class, bi'idhnillah. And the first thing he mentions is this hadith right here. وفي الصحيح, it comes in the Sahih, عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال تعيس ما معنى تعيس? Here it says wretched. يعني okay, but it's really ta'isa. The Prophet is making dua against this person. It's also a khabar, as we're going to see in the book, but it's a dua again. The Prophet is making dua against you. The Prophet said, may he be punished, may he be destroyed. يعني halaka. Ta'isa يعني halaka. May he be destroyed. The Prophet is saying. And does the Prophet ﷺ normally speak like that? Or no? What is he known as? What is he described as in the Quran? Rahmatul lil alameen. صح? Always walking around to smile, and he's the kindest person ever. And he's speaking like this, which makes it even a bigger of a deal. When somebody who's normally calm and kind and forgiving and merciful says something like this, it's a bigger deal than the guy who's just a hothead and he's always angry anyway. So the Prophet is saying this is a big deal. Ta'isa. May he be destroyed, may he perish. Abdul dirham wa ta'isa abdul dinar. The silver currency and the gold currency. I mean, the slave of the dollar. The slave, the worshipper of the dollar. And we're going to talk more about that today. Ta'isa abdul qatifa. Qatifa, some translate as the velvet cloth. Really, it's that soft material that's made that's used to make a couch that they sit and they relax on. So it's like saying the slave of the couch. The slave, the one who's attached to his couch, to his home, to his dwellings. The slave of the dollar, the slave of his living situation. That's all he cares about. Ta'isa Abdul Khamisa, and the slave of the garments. Slaves of the garments. All I care about is name brand, and if it got the polo, if it got the horse on it, I'm only paid 10 times as much, and I'm a slave to that. I become a slave to it. Or we're in the mirror looking at ourselves day and night, women wearing makeup, slaves to what? To your garments. Ta'isa wa intakas. May he be wretched and maybe he be degraded. وَإِذَا شِيكَ فَلَنْ تَقَشْ. And if he's pricked by a thorn, may it not be extracted. If he's pricked by a thorn, may it not be extracted. Why? In أُعْطِيَ رَضِيَ وَإِن مُنِعَ سَخِطَ. Because if he's given, he's pleased. And if he's not given, what happens? He's angry. And we're going to talk more about that topic there. All he cares about is his dunya, to the point that he becomes a slave and a worshipper to this dunya, to the money, to the couch, to your clothes and your garments and the way that you look and your house. The Prophet ﷺ, he made dua against that person. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for his afiyah to protect us from that. تفضل.
فسماه النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم عبد الدرهم وعبد الدينار وعبد القطيفة والخميصة وذكر ما فيه دعاء وخبر وهو قوله تعس وانتكس وإذا شيك فلانتقش والنقش إخراج الشوكة من الرجل والمنقاش ما يخرج به الشوكة وهذه حال من إذا أصابه شر لم يخرج منه ولم يفلح لكونه تعس وانتكس فلا نال المطلوب ولا خلص من المكروه وهذه حال من عبد المال وقد وصف ذلك بأنه إذا أعطي رضي وإذا منع سخط كما قال تعالى ومنهم من يلمزك في الصدقات فإن أعطوا منها رضوا وإن لم يعطوا منها إذا هم يسخطون فرضاهم لغير الله وسخطهم لغير الله.
The Prophet ﷺ described such a person as being a slave to the dirham and dinar and of velvet and garments, and stated that he is doomed to failure. But he also prayed that if such a person were pricked by a thorn, a minor affliction, he would not be able to remove it. This is the situation of a person who may be afflicted by calamity, but is not able to overcome it because he is doomed to failure. So he can neither achieve his aim nor rid himself of the thing he hates. This is the situation of one who is a slave to wealth and material possessions, who is described as being content when he is given something and angry when it is withheld from him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah At-Tawbah, and among them are men who slander you, the Prophet, in the matter of the distribution of alms. If they are given part thereof, they are pleased, but if not, behold, they are indignant. Neither their pleasure nor their anger is for the sake of Allah.
Nah. So this is a very important point. So we're just going to jump to the end here. This ayah that Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he brings from the Quran. وَقَدْ وَصْفَ ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّهُ إِذَا أُعْطِيَ رَضِيَ. These people, if they're given, what happens? What's the problem being attached to this dunya? When you're given from the dunya, you're pleased. And when you don't get from the dunya, you get angry. صح? And this is just like Allah mentions in the Quran where He says, وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَلْمِزُكَ فِي الصَّدَقَاتِ. مَنْ هُمْ? Who are the ones that slander the Prophet ﷺ when it comes to the sadaqat? The sadaqat, يعني, the war booty, the spoils of war. The munafiqun. That's what Allah mentioned in the Quran. The hypocrites, their characteristic is what? He said, فَإِنْ أُعْطُوا مِنْهَا رَضُوا. If they're given from the spoils of war, then they become what? Happy. وَإِن لَمْ يُعْطَوْا مِنْهَا إِذَا هُمْ يَسْخَطُونَ. And if they're not given, then what happens? They become angry. So what's the big issue? فَرِضَاهُمْ لِغَيْرِ اللَّهِ وَسَخَطُهُمْ لِغَيْرِ اللَّهِ. Their happiness and their pleasure is associated with other than Allah. And their anger, the thing that angers them, is in other than Allah. So ask yourself, what is it that pleases you? What is it that brings you happiness? And what is it that angers you? What should bring you happiness and pleasure is Allah and the deen of Allah and dhikr and salah, and what angers you should be kufr and fusuq and isyan. صح? But if your anger and your happiness and pleasure is attached to other than Allah, then that's a mushkil, that's a big problem. Allah said this in Surah Al-Fajr as well. You guys know the ayah? فَأَمَّا الْإِنسَانُ إِذَا مَا ابْتَلَاهُ رَبُّهُ فأكرمه ونعمه فيقول ربي أكرمن وأما إذا ما ابتلاه فقدر عليه رزقه فيقول ربي أهانن. When Allah gives him, he says, my Lord has honored me. When Allah takes away from him, he says what? My Lord has disgraced me. So we can't be like this kind of person who's so attached to this dunya, to the point that we're slaves to the things that we're supposed to own. You claim to own that car, to own that house, to own that money, to own them clothes, but in reality, they own you. Those things own you. You're a worshiper to them. If I don't get it, I'm upset. I'm depressed. I didn't make money today. I'm depressed. I didn't get the job I want. I don't have the money that I want. And I'm just in the dump because of it. You're a slave. You're a worshiper to the dollar. And your happiness and your obsession shouldn't be attached to that, to the wealth. So this is the big issue. فَرِضَاهُمْ لِغَيْرِ اللَّهِ وَسَخَطُهُمْ لِغَيْرِ اللَّهِ. Their happiness and their pleasure is in other than Allah. And what angers them, what moves them, is in other than Allah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said in the Quran about the believers, وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ حَبَّبَ إِلَيْكُمُ الْإِيمَانَ وَزَيَّنَهُ فِي قُلُوبِكُمْ. Allah has made beautified in your chest Iman. That's what's supposed to make you happy. وَكَرَّهَ إِلَيْكُمُ الْكُفْرَ وَالْفُسُوقَ وَالْعِصْيَانَ. And Allah has made it hated to you, what? Kufr, disbelief, fusuq and isyan, the major and the minor sins. So who's Allah talking to? Who did Allah make it hated to? To who? To the believers. So if you don't find yourself having those qualities, then am I from the believers? Am I from the worshippers of Allah? Or am I actually from the worshippers of the dollar? That's what we need to be very careful of. And that last sentence, you put it in a box and you highlight it. Neither their pleasure nor their anger is for the sake of Allah. And their pleasure and their anger is for other than Allah. That's a big issue. It should have been for Allah.
وهكذا حال من كان متعلقا برئاسة أو بصورة ونحو ذلك من أهواء نفسه إن حصل له رضي وإن لم يحصل له سخط فهذا عبد ما يهواه من ذلك وهو رقيق له إذ الرق والعبودية في الحقيقة هو رق القلب وعبوديته فما استرق القلب واستعبده فهو عبده ولهذا يقال العبد حر ما قنع والحر عبد ما طمع وقال الشاعر أطعت مطامعي فاستعبدتني ولو أني قنعت لكنت حرا ويقال الطمع غل في العنق وقيد في الرجل فإذا زال الغل من العنق زال القيد من الرجل.
This is also the situation of a man who is attached to a position of leadership or to a beautiful image or any other kind of desire. If he gets what he wants, he is happy, but if he does not achieve it, he becomes angry. So he is a slave to whatever it is that he desires, because enslavement is essentially the enslavement of the heart. Whatever the heart is enthralled by is the thing by which the heart is a slave.
That whole part we're going to cross out. So he is a slave to whatever it is that he desires, because enslavement is essentially enslavement. That whole part we're just going to cross out. We're going to retranslate that. Tafadhal.
For this reason, the Arab poet said, the slave is free so long as he is content, and the free man is a slave so long as he is greedy. I followed my desires and they enslaved me. If only I had been content with my lot, I would be free. It is said that greed and longing are like chains around the neck and shackles on the feet.
Let's stop there. وَهَكَذَا حَالُ مَنْ كَانَ مُتَعَلِّقًا. And this is the condition of the one who is so attached to bira'asa, to positions of leadership. I want that promotion. I want to be the principal. I want to be the president. I want to be the one in charge. In the masjid, I want to be the leader. I want to call the shots. They're so attached to leadership. أو بصورة, or here it says a beautiful image. Yani a surah, like an idea. Any kind of idea, image, ideology. You're so attached to this type of ideology. Too much. وَنَحْوُ ذَلِكَ, or anything like that people get attached to. Whether it's money or fame or positions of leadership or whatever it is, or a job, or if it's money or if it's a woman. When you're attached to these things, وَنَحْوُ ذَلِكَ من أهواء نفسه, from the desires of his nafs, إن حصل له رضيه. If he gets what he's seeking, what happens? He's pleased. That thing that you want so bad in his dunya, that you make it your main goal, your main objective, your main motivation, why you get up in the morning. That thing, if you get it, then you're happy. وَإِن لَمْ يَحْصَلْ لَهُ سَخِطٌ. And if it doesn't happen for you, then you become angry. So again, your happiness and anger is attached to these things. فَهَذَا عَبْدُ مَا يَهْوَاهُ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. This person becomes a slave to what his desires are leaning towards. وَهُوَ رَقِيقٌ لَهُ. And he's a raqiq, he's a literal slave to that thing. He's a abd, he's a worshipper, and he's a slave. إذ الرق والعبودية في الحقيقة هو رق القلب وعبوديته. Because in reality, he says slavery and worship, in reality, the real meaning of them is the slavery and the worship of the heart. So what is your heart really attached to? Okay, mashallah, you pray 5 times a day, you stand up and you bow and you prostrate with your physical body, but the condition of your heart, what is it that you're attached to? Because the thing that you're attached to, that's where the real slavery is. That's where the real worship happens. It happens in your heart. And a person can be, Allah described the munafiq as being those who pray. The hypocrites. Those who are في الدرك الأسفل من النار, in the lowest depths of the fire. They pray. So it's not about what you do with your physical body. It's about the condition of your heart. While also doing the actions. We're not saying the actions don't matter. Oh, the condition of my heart is good and I leave off the actions. You need both. فَمَا اسْتَرَقَّ الْقَلْبَ وَاسْتَعْبَدَهُ. He says, whatever the heart, whatever enslaves the heart, then and it subdues it, فَهُوَ عَبْدُهُ. Then you are a worshiper of that thing. So what is it that enslaves and subdues and subjugates your heart? What is your heart subservient to? This is the question that we have to be really careful of. And this one, you highlight it and memorize it. And if it was halal to tattoo it, you would have tattooed it. العبد حر ما قنع والحر عبد ما طمع. That one sentence. And the next sentence is extra, but at least that sentence. العبد حر ما قنع والحر عبد ما طمع. The slave, the one who's literally in prison, is a free man. He's free. So long as he's content. If you're content with your situation, what Allah has given me now, then guess what happens? You immediately become content. The slave, you immediately become free. You become free. You free yourself from the shackles and the bonds of this dunya, from the matrix, like they call it. You free yourself from that. You don't care about it. I don't care about making money. I don't care about getting a big house. I don't care about marrying a woman. My heart is not in any of that stuff. I'm not a slave to that stuff. The moment you become content with what Allah has given you right now and stop having dreams and ambitions and desires and goals like this country keeps teaching you to have because they want you to be depressed. No, a believer doesn't attach his heart to that stuff. وَالْحُرُّ عَبْدٌ. And the free man, the one who's walking around free, he can do whatever he wants. In reality, he's a slave. He's shackled and he has bonds. So long as he has tamir. And tamir is not just greedy, but he's needy. He has ambitions and goals and desires. So be very careful of having dreams, goals, ambitions, and desires. Do not have them. You should not have them at all. And it does not contradict that a person goes to college, he goes to work, he works hard, because the Prophet told us to do that. صح؟ المؤمن القوي خير وأحب إلى الله من المؤمن الضعيف وفي كل خير احرص على ما ينفعك واستعن بالله ولا تعجز. احرص على ما ينفعك. Work very hard in the things that benefit you. These things benefit me. But the reason why I'm doing it is what? الغنى. I just want to be rich and sufficient from needing anyone else. That's why I'm going to work and making money. I want to provide for my family. But my heart is not attached to this job, to becoming an engineer, a doctor, a pharmacist, or a lawyer. My heart is not attached. I'm not a slave to that thing. If I don't get that title, I'm just depressed and I break down when I don't get what I want from this dunya. That's not how you should be. The slave is free so long as he's content. And the free man is a slave so long as he has those goals and ambitions and desires and things that he wants of this dunya. أطعت مطامعي فاستعبدتني ولو أني قنعت لكنت حرا. I obeyed my desires and they enslaved me, they subdued me, they subjugated me, they humbled me down, they beat me. And if only I would have been content with what I had, then I would have been free. And that's the reality of this dunya. Disassociate from what's in it and you're going to be free and happy. And he's going to go into more depth on this, inshallah. Oh, we already read this. ويقال الطمع الطمع غل في العنق قيد في الرجل. The tama', greed and longing and ambition, it's a shackle around the neck. And it is a chain around the leg. فَإِذَا زَالَ الْغُلْ, and here it's mistranslated. It says, even if the chain is removed. That's not what it says. It says, فَإِذَا زَالَ الْغُلُّ مِنَ الْعُنُقِ زَالَ الْقَيْدِ مِنَ الرِّجِلِ. If the shackle is removed from the neck, then the chains will also be removed from the feet. Yani remove them, and then you'll be free, inshallah. That's the whole point. And here a very nice statement of the early Salaf. It was attributed to Ibn Abd al-Barr rahimahullah. إِذَا قِيلَ لِلطَّمَعِ, if it is said to tama', to ambitions and goals, as if it was a human being and you could talk to it. If it was said to ambitions and goals and greed, if it was said to it, Man abuk, who is your father? Then it would say, قال الشك في المقدور. Having doubt in what is decreed for me. Having doubt in the decreed things is going to lead you to what? Having goals and ambitions and desires. The believer, he doesn't have goals and ambitions and dreams and desires in his dunya. Because why? It's all decreed. Allah, if I get this job, I don't get this job. If I get that check, I don't get this check. If I marry this girl, I don't marry this girl. It doesn't matter. Allah has, the qadr of Allah is already there. I'm going to get married, I'm going to get a job, I'm going to make money, I'm going to live, I'm going to survive, or I'm going to die of starvation. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's all what? Maqdur. It's all decreed and it's done and it's sealed. The pages have been dried and the pens have been lifted like we took in the hadith. So why am I going to stress something that's already decreed and determined? That's the believer. So if it's said to tama' man abuk, who's your father? قال الشك في المقدور. Having doubt in what has been destined. And that's why we took earlier the statement of Ibn Abbas, al-qadar nizam al-tawheed. Belief in qadr of Allah is the nizam of the tawheed. And that's why we stuck with that earlier. So the statement of Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anh, in this regard makes it even clearer again.
ويروى عن عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه أنه قال الطمع فقر واليأس غنى وإن أحدكم إذا يئس من شيء استغنى عنه وهذا أمر يجده الإنسان من نفسه فإن الأمر الذي ييأس منه لا يطلبه ولا يطمع به فلا يبقى قلبه فقيرا إليه ولا إلى من يفعله وأما إذا طمع في أمر من الأمور ورجاه وتعلق قلبه به فصار فقيرا إلى حصوله وإلى من يظن أنه سبب في حصوله وهذا في المال والجاه والصور وغير ذلك.
It was reported that Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anh, he said, greed is poverty, and resignation is wealth.
Cross out resignation and say despair or give up, to let go. And to despair is wealth. To give up is wealth. Letting go of these things is wealth. Not resignation, it's just weird. Tafadhal.
When any one of you gives up hope of something, he becomes independent of it. This is something which anyone can feel in his heart, for when he gives up hope of something, he no longer wants it or longs for it. He no longer feels in need of it or of the one who can help him get to it. If he longs for and hopes for something, then his heart is attached to it and he feels that he is in need of it and of the one who he thinks can be the means to this end. This is the case in matters of wealth and power and beautiful images or people, etc.
So the statement of Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anh, الطمع فقر. Having these dreams and goals and ambitions and wants and needs, it's poverty, it's need, it's faqr, not having what you want. وَالْيَأْسُ غِنَى. And just letting go of these things, letting go, despairing in them is ghina. It is being wealthy and rich. وَإِنَّ أَحَدَكُمْ إِذَا يَئِسَ مِنْ شَيْءٍ اسْتَغْنَى عَنْهُ. Any one of you, the moment you let go of something, you become free and independent of that thing. If I tell you, brother, I got all this money, I got $1 million right here, stop praying. You're going to say, I'm cool, I don't want that, I'm good. You're free of that. But there's some people who they're literally shackled and chained, and they're slaves to what? The money. Whatever the money tells them to do, they're going to do it. Whatever their desire tells them to do, they're going to do it. So letting go, freeing yourself from this is independence of those things. And this is as it came in the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. لَيْسَ الْغِنَى كَثْرَةُ الْعَرَبِ. Ghina, being rich, is not just in accumulating a lot of wealth and a lot of material. That's not what being rich means. وَلَكِنَّ الْغِنَى غِنَى النَّفْسِ. But really being rich and wealthy is the enrichment of the nafs, is feeling content in your heart. Be content and you're immediately rich, you're immediately happy. And subhanAllah, look at what the shaitan does. Once you get married, you'll be happy. Once you get that job, you'll be happy. Once this thing that you're hoping and dreaming for, once that happens, you're going to be happy, right? When in reality, give up hope in that thing and you can be happy right now. You can be happy right now. Just be content with your condition. And we're going to take this later, but this was the condition of Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah himself. He said, ماذا يفعل أعدائي بي? What are my enemies going to do with me? If they throw me in prison, فإنها خلوة. It's alone time with me and Allah. I get to make dua, I get to memorize Quran. All of his works were written where? Most of them? In prison. How much did he benefit from prison? You're throwing him in prison, but in reality he's what? He said, Inna jannati fi sadri. Jannati wa bustani fi sadri. My Jannah and my garden is in my chest. They can't take it away from me. No matter what they do. If they kill me, فَإِنِّي shaheed. I'm a shaheed, I'm a martyr. If they expel me from my land, فَإِنَّهَا سِيَاحَةٌ. I'm just traveling, I'm a traveler. He's just positive minded. Anything doesn't affect him. So that's how we need to be. Be a believer. Your happiness and your goals and your ambitions and your dreams is attached to this deen. And nobody can take that from you. Not if they're killing us and slaughtering us. Not if they're dropping bombs on us. There's nothing they can do. There's nothing they can do to harm us. Why? Because our heart is not in this dunya. So this is very important. And that's what the Prophet said. غِنَى غِنَى النَّفْسِ وَهَذَا أَمْرٌ يَجِدُهُ الْإِنسان مِنْ نَفْسِهِ. Every person, they can witness this within their own selves. This concept mentioned by al-Khattab. فَإِنَّ الْأَمْرَ الَّذِي يَيْأَسُ مِنْهُ لَا يَطْلُبُهُ. Anything that you give up hope in, you're not going to go out and seek that thing and break your back for that thing. وَلَا يَبْقَى قَلْبُهُ فَقِيرًا إِلَيْهِ. And your heart's not going to become so dependent and in need and impoverished by that thing. وَلَا إِلَى مَنْ يَفْعَلُهُ. Nor to the one who you think can give it to you. The problem with becoming enslaved to the dollar is not only are you a slave to the dollar, but you're a slave to your boss, who you think can give you that dollar, or whatever it is that you're seeking, whether it's a position of leadership. You become a slave to the people who you think can get you that thing that you really want to seek. Because I'm a worshiper of this thing, I'm willing to do anything for it. I want that position of leadership, I'm willing to kill people for it. My own brother, if he's the king, I'm willing to kill him. And how many times has that happened in the past? You kill somebody for a position of leadership, or for a woman to marry, or for some money. You kill people. That's what it leads you to. It drives you insane, this level of worship and servitude. So here, the concept is what? Al-Qana'ah, contentment. The question is, how do you get contentment? How do you, if I'm on the list, I said, okay, do 1, 2, 3, and you'll be content. What the ulama, they mention is 3 things. Write them down. Al-Qana'ah, how do you become content? The first is al-Iman bil-Qadar, having proper belief in the Qadr of Allah. And we mentioned what the Qadr was, we're not going to bring it back up again. Belief in the Qadr, the decree of Allah. If you're confused about the Qadr, go back and rewatch those classes. Second, at-tawakkul ala Allah, placing your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And third, ma'arifatu, haqiqatu ma'rifati dunya, the reality, knowing the true reality of this dunya. What is this dunya? Because if you knew what it was, you wouldn't be so attached to it. You know the reality of the dunya? It's what the Prophet ﷺ, he described when he said, لو كانت الدنيا تعدل عند الله جناح بعوضة ما سقى كافرا منها شربة ماء. If this dunya was worth the wing of a fly to Allah, He would not give the kafir anything to drink. And are the kafir drinking in this dunya? Are they rich and enjoying and being given money and power and fame? They're getting that? What does that mean? That it's not even worth the wing of a fly to Allah. If it mattered to Allah, then He wouldn't be giving the kuffar things in this dunya. It's hadith sahih. So these 3 things are going to give you contentment. Number 1, believing in what's decreed. What Allah has decreed for me is going to come. What He did not decree for me is not going to come. It doesn't matter. I should work hard, but it doesn't matter. It's not in my hands how hard I work, how smart I am. It's not up to you. That whole thing of you can be whatever you want to be is kalam fadhi, at least to depression. When you don't get that job, you don't get that money, you don't get that, you become depressed. That's kafir talk. We don't believe like that. No, we believe in the qadr of Allah. And I trust Allah, that Allah has my best interest in mind. And what Allah decreed is going to be what's best for me. And that I know the reality of this dunya. So why am I sitting here being so obsessed by this dunya? So these are all very important. وَأَمَّا إِذَا طَمَعَ فِي أَمْرٍ مِّنَ الْأُمُورِ وَرَجَاهِ. And if a person has ambition and desires and goals and dreams, in some matters of these matters, وَرَجَاهِ, and he starts hoping in them, فَإِنَّ قَلْبَهُ يَتَعَلَّقُ بِهِ. Then his heart becomes attached to these things. فَيَصِيرُ فَقِيرًا إِلَى حُصُولِهِ. He becomes so poor and so in need of the attainment of these things. وَإِلَى مَنْ يَظُنُّ أَنَّهُ سَبَبٌ فِي حُصُولِهِ. And he becomes so attached and enslaved to the one who he thinks can give him these things that he wants. وَهَذَا فِي الْمَالِ وَالْجَاهِ وَالصُّوَرِ وَغَيْرِ ذَلِكَ. And this is in fame, it's in images, it's in money, and it's in wealth, and it's in other than these things. The big issue is that you're longing, this raja, this raghbah, your longing and your desires and your hoping and your attachment should be upon Allah. And having these things, loving and longing and hoping and attaching to other than Allah, makes you stingy. And it makes you cut corners in your worship. Why? When I say Allahu Akbar, what am I thinking about? I'm thinking about that money. I'm thinking about that job. Because that's what I really care about. That's what I'm attached to. So I start cutting corners in my worship, in my ibadat. Then that's going to be a type of shirk. And it's going to be starting to eat away at your ubudiyyah and your iman. That's why he even got to this topic in this book. Tamam? And as we mentioned before, a person could go to work, he could work hard, but he's not attached to that thing. Your heart is not there. I could go to the doctor and seek a cure, but I know Allah is the shafi. My heart is attached to Allah. It's not attached to these things. Naam. Ibrahim alayhi salam, he taught us this concept, and many ayat are going to come about this concept. تفضل.
قال الخليل صلى الله عليه وسلم فابتغوا عند الله الرزق واعبدوه واشكروا له فالعبد لا بد له من رزق وهو محتاج إلى ذلك فإذا طلب رزقه من الله صار عبدا لله فقيرا إليه وإذا طلبه من مخلوق صار عبدا لذلك المخلوق فقيرا إليه ولهذا كانت مسألة المخلوق محرمة في الأصل وإنما أبيحت للضرورة.
Ibrahim alayhi salam advised from Surah Al-Ankabut, then seek sustenance with Allah, worship Him and be grateful to Him. To Him will be your return. Everyone needs provision and sustenance, rizq. If a person...
So here the translation says, then seek sustenance with Allah, and that's our incorrect translation. Because the Arabic doesn't say that. Does the Arabic say, then seek sustenance with Allah? Is that what it says? What does it say? Huh? فَابْتَغُوا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ الرِّزْقِ. Does that mean, then seek sustenance with Allah, yes or no? Who could fix that translation? This is a very important concept that he's going to mention in this book too. No, the real meaning is, then with Allah, seek sustenance. And those are two totally different meanings. We worship you, it is you who we worship. We're going to talk about that concept. So that translation is wrong, cross that out. Tafadhal.
If a person seeks this rizq from Allah, then he will be a slave to Allah and feel in need of Him. If he seeks it from some created being, he will be enslaved by and feel in need of that being. This is why it is basically forbidden.
It's not basically forbidden to ask, it is forbidden to ask. Cross out basically. This is why it is forbidden to ask.
This is why it is forbidden to ask for anything from another created being, although it is permitted to do so in cases of necessity. There are many ahadith.
We're going to get to that hadith now. So this ayah of Khalil Ibrahim alayhi salam saying, Allah is quoting him, فَابْتَغُوا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ الرِّزْقِ. مَا مَعْنَى فَابْتَغُوا? Seek your sustenance from Allah. How do you seek your sustenance from Allah? In two ways. What are those ways? How can you seek Allah's sustenance? His rizq, His provisions. Dua. بِدُعَائِهِ وَسُؤَالِهِ. That you ask Him, you supplicate, oh Allah, give me rizq. So you ask Allah. Tamam? And the second way, وَبِبَذْلِ الْأَسْبَابِ الَّتِي أَبَاحَهَا لِعِبَادِهِ. And by taking the means necessary. Seeking your sustenance from Allah means you go out and you work. You go get a job, you study, you work hard, you get that job, you put in your hours. That's called what? Seeking your sustenance from who? From Allah. Because we learned earlier that the aqdar came down with the asbab. That it's not that, oh, my qadr came down. No, your qadr came down with the sabab that's going to give you that thing. Tamam? So Allah did write down how much money you're going to make, but He also wrote down the hours that you're going to work to make that money. So that's also important, that you seek that by going out and doing the asbab. So these two things, if a person does them, and he does them from Allah and from Allah alone, this ayah says to do it from Allah alone. Because it said, فَابْتَغُوا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ الرِّزْقِ, and didn't say, فَابْتَغُوا الرِّزْقِ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. It didn't say seek the sustenance with Allah. It said, with Allah, seek sustenance, giving the meaning of exclusivity, that only from Allah you should be seeking your sustenance. What happens when you seek the sustenance from Allah? He says, فَالْعَبْدُ لَا بُدَّ لَهُ مِنْ رِزْقٍ. The slave, every one of us, we can't live without rizq. We can't live without money. We can't live without food and water and a home. And we need these things. Every one of us needs it. وَهُوَ مُحْتَاجٌ إِلَى ذَلك. And you need them. فَإِذَا طَلَبَ رِزْقَهُ مِنَ اللَّهِ صَارَ عَبْدًا لِلَّهِ. If you seek what you need in this dunya of rizq from Allah, you become a slave of Allah. You become in need of Allah. فَقِيرًا إِلَيْهِ. You become in need of Allah. And vice versa. وَإِذَا طَلَبَهُ مِن مَخْلُوقٍ صَارَ عَبْدًا لِذَلِكَ الْمَخْلُوقِ فَقِيرًا إِلَيْهِ. And if you seek that sustenance from someone in this dunya, from some created being, then you're going to become a slave and poor and in need of that created being. So even though you work for that man or you work at that company, your heart should be attached to Allah, not that company. They can fire you tomorrow, you get another job. It's not a big deal. Allah's the one who feeds you. Allah's the one who clothes you. Don't be so attached to that position. So this is very important. وَلِهَذَا كَانَتْ مَسْأَلَةُ الْمَخْلُوقِ مُحَرَّمَةً فِي الْأَصْلِ. And this is why asking the people for anything is haram, aslan. The original rule. And we're going to talk about the different rules of asking. Any kind of asking. The asl of asking someone for absolutely anything is that it's haram. You can't ask. That's the asl. وَإِنَّمَا أُبِيحَتْ لِلضَّرُورَةِ. And it became permissible for the ضرورة. ما معنى ضرورة? What does that mean, absolute necessity?
Necessity if you're in danger of your life.
If you're in danger of your life or your... There's two things the ulama say. No, not your wealth. Your life or your... La. Your life or your limb. Your limbs. So this is ضرورة in terms of fiqh. Like fiqh terminology, when ضرورة is used, this is what is meant. That which without a person will lose a life or he will lose a limb. And the qaida for the ضرورة, الضرورات تقدر بقدرها. If I'm choking on something or I'm dying of thirst and the only thing in front of me is a bottle of alcohol, I gotta drink, I gotta save my life. But you only drink what? Enough to save your life. You don't down that whole bottle. Tamam? So you take what you need from it to survive. So the ضرورات, but this is what? Fiqh terminology. But here, this is why you need a Shaykh to walk through these books. من كان شيخه كتابه كان خطأه أكثر من صوابه. Whoever his Shaykh was the book, then you're going to have more mistakes and things you get right. You got to have a Shaykh who knows what Ibn Taymiyyah means, who could break it down to you. So the Mashayikh, they say what? No, Ibn Taymiyyah here, ضرورة, also he means the haja. Because in fiqh, ضرورة and haja mean two different things. ضرورة is what we mentioned. You about to lose a life or a limb. That's a ضرورة. So you can't ask anyone anything unless you can lose a life or a limb. That's what I could understand from that. But no, in this book it also means haja, which is a necessity, a need. You have a great need for something. You're not going to lose a life or limb, but you really need that thing. This is also intended here. Tamam? So anyways, asking is haram. Unless there's a haja. We're going to use the word haja so it's clear. And asking, there's so many ahadith about it. Let me take over so we save time. Asking, there's so many ahadith about the prohibition of asking. وَفِي النَّهِي عَنْهَا أَحَادِيثُ كَثِيرًا. So many ahadith about the prohibition of asking. In the Sahih, in the Sihah wa Sunan, in the authentic books and in the Sunan, وَالْمَسَانِيد. كقوله صلى الله عليه وسلم, as the Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith that is متفق عليه, both Bukhari and Muslim. لا تزال المسألة بأحدكم حتى يأتي يوم القيامة وليس في وجهه مزعة لحم. One of you will continue to ask. You're not going to stop asking. Asking as in what? Begging. You're not going to stop begging the people and asking them for things until you show up Yawm al-Qiyamah without a fragment, without a piece of flesh left on your face. And even in English we have this saying, right? Saving face. You guys know that saying? Like stop asking people for this stuff. Saving face. Like leave some dignity, if you will. Like don't let out all you keep asking and begging people for the things. You're giving away all your dignity like that. So this concept, the Prophet ﷺ, he teaches us about this. We know, and this doesn't refer to the one who just asks one time or two times. The Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith what? لا تزالوا. You will not stop asking. So this is the person who's what? Always begging, 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 begging. Over and over. Doesn't stop doing it. This person is going to show up Yawm al-Qiyamah without flesh on his face. Is this a major sin or a minor sin or is it a sin at all? Begging without need? Major. لماذا? How do you know something's a major sin? إذا ترتب عليه وعيد في الآخرة. If there's a warning or a threat or a punishment in the akhirah associated with that sin. So I got an ayah in the Quran or I got a hadith that says if you do X, Y, or Z, here's the punishment for it. That thing is called a major sin. There's other sins where the Prophet tells us not to do it, Allah tells us not to do it, but there's no punishment prescribed. That's called a lesser sin. So the major sins are a very big deal. We need to stay away from. This is a major sin. We got to stay away from it. And the reason is because it destroys your tawakkul upon Allah. You should be having tawakkul upon Allah. And it teaches you to rely on the creation. And we talked about how problematic that is. And subhanAllah, how you come Yawm al-Qiyamah without what? Flesh on your face. And the qa'idah is that al-jaza'u min jins al-amal. That the punishment or the reward is of the same type of the deed done. So those who avoided khamr in the dunya, they get rivers of khamr, صح? Those who avoided women in the dunya, you get women in Jannah, صح? And the punishment the same. Those who use their private parts to commit haram, they're going to be punished by their private parts, and vice versa. Those who didn't save their face in the dunya, their dignity, then there's not going to be any flesh left on their face يوم القيامة. وقوله صلى الله عليه وسلم من سأل الناس وله ما يغنيه. For the one who asks the people while having what he needs, جاءت مسألته يوم القيامة خدوشا أو خموشا أو كدوشا في وجهه. هذا سنده صحيح. The Prophet said, the one of you who asks people while not having a need to ask, he's going to come his begging will appear يوم القيامة. His begging will appear يوم القيامة like scratches or gashes or claw marks or scuffs or bruises on his face يوم القيامة. May Allah protect us. وقوله لا تحل المسألة إلا لذي غرم مفضع أو دم موجع أو فقر مدقع. The Prophet said asking is not permissible except for the one who's burdened with a severe debt, a grievous, distressing debt, or blood money that is painful, yani a calamity of blood money, it's so heavy he can't afford to pay it on his own, or a poverty that is crushing, that brings him down to the ground. Then yani in those cases it's permissible to ask. طيب. The concept of asking takes 5 rulings, write them down, it's not in your book. So this way it's very clear for us. Asking people, creation, could be shirk. It could be shirk. It could be associating partners with Allah. It could be haram. It could be muharram. It could be mubah. It could be permissible. It could be mustahab. It could be favored and liked. And it could be wajib. It could be mandatory for you to do. When does it take each of these rulings? Asking a creation for something becomes shirk. السؤال سؤال الميت من كان, asking the deceased regardless of who it is, whether a prophet or other than a prophet, or a regular or a righteous man or not a righteous man. Asking the deceased for absolutely anything is shirk. Doesn't matter if I'm not asking him for the thing, I'm not asking him for Jannah, I'm asking him to talk to Allah for me. La, it doesn't matter. Talking to the deceased, asking them, making dua is shirk. Also, that was number 1, that's shirk. Number 2, that's also shirk. Al-Hayy, al-Ghaib. This person's alive, he's not dead, but he's ghaib, he's not here. And he can't hear you. He's not like he's on the phone nowadays or you're texting him, but there's no communication and you think that they can hear you. So you're talking to someone who's ghaib, who's away. He's in a different city, another town, another country, or he's just not next to you and you're talking to him as if he can hear you. That's what? That's shirk. You think this person's Allah, you think he's a God, you think he's all hearing and all seeing, and he knows what you're saying? That is shirk. You cannot make dua to someone who's not present. Or ask, sorry, not just dua, just ask. You can't ask someone who's not present. They can't hear you. Any kind of asking is shirk. And then the third is al-hayy al-hadir. So this person is not dead, he's hayy. He's not ghaib, he's hadir. However, you ask this hayy al-hadir, عَمَّا لَا يَقْدِرُ عَلَيْهِ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. You ask him for what no one other than Allah can give you, like children, or money, or provisions, or you ask him for things that only Allah can give you, or health, or to prolong your life, or whatever. You're asking this person for something that only Allah can give. Or you're asking a man to send down rain from the sky. That's something only Allah can do. That's called what? Shirk. Those kinds of asking is shirk. Asking becomes haram. It takes the ruling of being haram. Su'al bi ghayri haja. Asking without a need. And this doesn't just refer to ashkhas, asking individuals, but also asking the governments as well, صح? Asking for food stamps and WIC and this check and that check. And when you don't need it, and you're eating food from the government, that's what? That's haram. You're asking, and you're taking without a need. This is haram. Regardless of what their system entails or what's in it. If you don't need it, don't take it. Even if you qualify for it, doesn't matter. If you don't need it, you can't ask. This is Islam, we're Muslim. So it becomes haram. The person, not only he asks bidun haja, also the person who asks, who does have a haja, however, وَهُوَ قَادِرٌ عَلَى الْكَسْبِ. The one who does have a need, but he also has the ability to go earn, that's also haram. So I could say, I don't have enough to eat or drink, I don't have enough money in the bank, so I'm asking. Asking is halal for me. No, we got to first ask, do you have the ability to go earn? So if you're working 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, and that's not enough for you, do you have the ability to work more? To work 80 hours or to work 7 days a week? If you do, then you can't ask. You have the ability. But what if I don't have the ability? I'm working 7 days a week, I'm working 12 hours a day, I'm only sleeping 3 hours a night, I cannot work anymore. Then this is when it won't take that ruling. But one who has the ability to earn, it's haram. When does it become mubah? It becomes permissible. The opposite of the haram. The opposite of the haram. So you do have a haja and you don't have the ability and you're asking for your rights. That's mubah, it's permissible. When does it become mustahab? Not only permissible but favored and liked for you to ask. Anybody guess? Huh? Saving a life? Saving your own life? That might be wajib, Sheikh. What? Asking for, who said that? Asking for ilm. I'm asking you for now. I'm not asking you for money or food. I'm asking you for knowledge. That kind of asking is mustahab. You should ask for knowledge. Asking questions. Also, when you're asking for wealth or food or something, but on behalf of someone else. I'm raising funds for the masjid, or for fulan who's poor, or for the people in Gaza. That's why I'm asking, not for me, but for someone else. This is mustahab. And a qawl that's very daqiq, very subtle issue. I ask Habibi Abu Musa to make dua for me. Abu Musa, ad'ili. Make dua for me, Abu Musa. But the reason why I'm asking him is so the angels can make dua for him. That's why I asked him. I didn't ask him really so he can make dua for me, because really it's makruh for you to ask someone else to make you dua and anta tatruk ad-dua. You leave dua. I say, Ya Kamal, make dua for me. He's a righteous man, make dua for me. And I don't make dua for myself. That's makruh. You can't do that. But if the reason why I'm asking him is because he's my son, and I want to teach him birrul walidain, id'ili, every sujood, make dua for me. Every day, make sure you make dua for me, because I want to teach him birrul walidain. Then it becomes what? Mustahab. Or I ask him for money, you got to help me with the bills. But for what reason? To teach him how to be responsible. So I'm doing it I'm asking, but for your benefit. I want the angels to make dua for you, then that's also mustahab. And the last one, it becomes wajib when you're on the brink of death. Like you said, to save your life, you have to ask. You can't just sit there and die because you have too much arrogance or kibr to ask. So this is just to make it very clear when we talk about asking what we're referring to. But seeking and asking the people for money and provisions and all this stuff falls into what Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he mentioned. And then there's regular asking, like asking a neighbor for some eggs. It's fine, it's permissible. ما ليس فيه خضوع ولا ذل فليس محرم. That's the qaida. If there's no humiliation, there's no humbling yourself in the type of asking. If I ask somebody for some milk or some eggs, there's no like dignity being lost in that. But if I'm asking for some money, if I'm asking for this and I'm losing dignity, then that's the one that we don't want to do. وفيه أيضا لأن يأخذ أحدكم حبله فيذهب فيحتطب خير له من أن يسأل الناس أعطوه أو منعوه. For one of you to take his own habl, his own rope, and to go out and seek livelihood by gathering and chopping wood. If all you got is a rope, for you to go take that rope and go try to earn your own money and earn your own wages and make your own livelihood, that's better for you than asking the people whether they gave you or whether they denied you. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, وقال ما أتاك من هذا المال وأنت غير سائل ولا مشرف فخذه وما لا فلا تتبعه نفسك. Any wealth that comes your way. Why did the Prophet say this hadith? Because he was going to pay Ibn Umar radiyallahu anhuma, and Ibn Umar was saying, give it to someone else who needs it. So the Prophet he told him what? Whatever comes your way of wealth, where you didn't ask for it, you didn't ask for it, you didn't seek it, you didn't beg for it, and you weren't even aspiring and hoping for it, then take it. Then take it. And if not, then don't let your longing and desire be attached to that thing. فَكَرِهَ أَخْذَهُ مَعَ سُؤَالِ اللِّسَانِ. So the Prophet he hated that you take things by asking with your tongue. وَاسْتِشْرَافِ الْقَلْبِ. And by longing or aspiring for it. So we don't ask for things with our tongue, and we don't long and aspire for things. And if they come, we take it. وَقَالَ فِي الْحَدِيثِ الصَّحِيحِ. And the Prophet said in this authentic hadith, And this is the hadith where they kept asking the Prophet ﷺ over and over again, right? And he gave them. And they asked and he gave. And he asked that hadith. مَن يَسْتَغْنِي يُغْنِيهِ اللَّهِ. Whoever seeks to be rich, Allah will make him rich. Whoever seeks to be content, Allah will make him content. يعني في قلبي. وَمَن يَسْتَعْفِفْ يُعِفَّهُ اللَّهِ. And whoever refrains, abstains from asking others, Allah will suffice him. يعني باللسان. So whoever seeks contentment in the heart will be given contentment in the heart. And whoever withholds his tongue from asking the people, then Allah will suffice him. وَمَن يَتَصَبَّرْ يُصَبِّرْهُ اللَّهِ. And whoever seeks to be patient, Allah will grant him patience. وَمَا أُعْطِيَ أَحَدٌ عَطَاءً خَيْرًا وَأَوْسَعَ مِنَ الصَّبْرِ. And no one is given anything more vast and bigger and greater than sabr. مُتَّفَقٌ عَلَيْهِ. وَأَوْصَى خَوَاصَ أَصْحَابِهِ أَنْ لَا يَسْأَلُ النَّاسَ شَيْئًا. This is another level. This type of asking that we want to refrain from is the level of the Sahaba. You should aim for it, but don't beat yourself if you don't get to it, and don't hold other people to this level. But listen to how the Sahaba used to be. This is how the Sahaba radiallahu anhum used to be. It was narrated في المسند أن أبا بكر كان يسقط الصوت من يده فلا يقل لأحد ناولني إياه ويقول إن خليلي أمرني ألا أسأل الناس شيئا. Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, well, if he would be riding on his beast and he would drop his whip, he would not say to anyone, pass me my whip. He wouldn't ask anyone. And he would say, my close friend, my dear friend, used to command me to not ask the people for anything. Not a glass of water, go grab me some water. Wouldn't ask the people for anything. Not grab me my whip. Nothing he would ask. That was his level. وفي صحيح مسلم وغيره عن عوف بن مالك أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بايعه في طائفة وأسر إليهم كلمة خفية. The Prophet ﷺ during while he was in Ta'ifa, when he was accepting the pledge of allegiance of others to him, he said a bunch of things. The hadith, the 4 hadith mentions. He mentioned to them the salah, and he mentioned to them the zakah, and he said it in a loud voice. But then he whispered something to them. He whispered it, and he said, وَأَصَرَّ إِلَيْهِمْ أَلَّا تَسْأَلُ النَّاسَ شَيْئًا. Don't ask the people anything. Pray, salah, zakah, and don't ask the people for anything. So this is the Sahaba, they stayed on that. فَكَانَ بَعْضُ أُولَٰئِكَ النَّفَرِ يَسْقُطُ الصَّوْتُ مِنْ أَحَدِهِمْ وَلَا يَقُلْ لِأَحَدٍ نَاوِلْنِي إِيَّاهِ. They would drop their whips and they wouldn't tell people, pass me that whip.
How do we reach the level of the Sahaba? Because the not asking without being like arrogant.
Thank you for bringing that up. Asking, by the way, thanks. We don't, if that level of the Sahaba about not asking people for a glass of water or anything like that, if you want to be on that type of time, do that. But don't say that to your wife or your mother. They ask you for a glass of water, you say, oh, the Sahaba, they didn't used to ask for that whip when they drop it. La. Get your wife a glass of water, get the ta'amalu, yani be kind and have good treatment with other people. You should serve each other. It brings about mahabba. But if you yourself, you're like, man, I want to make sure, I want to be so careful that my heart is not attached to anyone. I'm not going to ask somebody for nothing. Not a glass of water, not $1, not a glass of milk. I'm going to do it myself. Then that's better. That you don't rely on the creation, that you do things yourself. Tamam? But sometimes, again, you're asking not for your sake. You know you have a type of wife or a type of mother or a type of aunt who loves to serve. Their love language is acts of service, right? So you're letting them do that to you. You're letting them serve you because you know it makes them happy, and that's how like they should. So again, it's really about your intention when it really goes down to. Wallahu a'lam. وقد دلت النصوص على الأمر بالمسألة الخالق ونهي عن مسألة المخلوق في غير موضع. And the ayat of Quran, just like the ahadith, also indicate this, that you should be asking the Creator and you should not be asking the creation. كقوله تعالى فإذا فرغت فانصب وإلى ربك فارغب. And when you فرغت, when you become free, then فانصب, then you should do what? ما معنى فانصب? Stand. يعني صلي, pray. وإلى ربك فارغب. And إلى ربك فارغب. ما معنى وإلى ربك فارغب? The word farghab means desire or long or your hopes and dreams and your raghba, your desire. And to your Lord, you attach your desires and longing. And not, like we mentioned before, it doesn't say farghab ila rabbik. It says what? Wa ila rabbika farghab. When the ism, when the object comes first, the maf'ulun bihi comes first, then that means that thing is exclusive to that only. وقول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم لابن عباس رضي الله عنهما إذا سألت فاسأل الله وإذا استعنت فاستعن بالله. We took this hadith before. If you ask, ask Allah, and if you seek help from Allah alone. ومنه قول الخليل فابتغوا عند الله الرزق. Like we took in that ayah, and this is the qaida that I've been mentioning. ولم يقل فابتغوا الرزق عند الله لأن تقديم الظرف يشعر بالاختصاص الحصري. When you put the adverb, the prepositioning of the adverb implies exclusivity and restriction. That's a qaida, memorize that. كأنه, so when you see in the Fatiha every day you say إياك نعبد. It is you who we worship, not we worship you. Everybody clear on that, or is that confusing? So if somebody walks in a room right now while we're sitting here in class and he says, everybody here, fear me. Be like, man, get out of here. But if he walks in and says, hey, it is me that you should fear. That's scarier, right? It's me. He gets the attention to what? Himself. So that's what we're doing when we say, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدْ. It is you, yani it is only you. So when you put the object of the verb before, the prepositioning of the adverb implies exclusivity. كأنه قال لا تبتغوا الرزق إلا عند الله. Do not seek sustenance except with Allah. وقد قال تعالى واسألوا الله من فضله. Ask Allah from His provisions and His bounty. والإنسان, we're ending with this. والإنسان لا بد له من حصول ما يحتاج إليه من الرزق ونحوه ودفع ما يضره. And mankind, he needs to acquire what he needs from this dunya of rizq, and he needs to push off what harms him. وَكِلَا الْأَمْرَيْنِ. And in both of these matters, whether you're trying to obtain good or ward off evil, شُرِعَ لَهُ أَن يَكُونَ دُعَاؤُهُ لِلَّهِ. When you're trying to obtain good or when you're trying to ward off evil, that your supplication and your dua should be to Allah, for Allah to do that. Oh Allah, give me good. Oh Allah, ward off this evil. And don't be having your heart attached to anything of the creation. فَلَا يَسْأَلْ رِزْقَهُ إِلَّا مِنَ اللَّهِ. He doesn't ask for his provision except from Allah. وَلَا يَشْتَكِي إِلَّا إِلَيْهِ. Which brings us to our topic of next week. And he should not complain except to Allah. Because complaining, you're seeking sympathy from the people, and you just sought reward from other than Allah. We're going to talk about that next week. كقول يعقوب عليه السلام إنما أشكو بثي وحزني إلى الله. As Yaqub used to say, I do not complain of my sorrow and my struggles except to Allah. Tamam? So today's class, very important class, that your heart is muta'alliqun billah. Don't have your heart attached to this dunya. You got dreams and goals and ambitions and desires in money and wealth, in a woman to marry or anything like that. Because then you think that you need that thing to become happy. You become a slave, a worshiper to that thing, and anything that you think can lead you to that thing. Tamam? And then you start becoming deficient in your worship and your ubudiyyah and in your attachment to Allah. No, free yourself from that and become attached to Allah. Know that Allah is the one who gives and Allah is the one who takes. And you should be attached to Allah. And then whatever I get of this dunya, it's maqdur. I'm not so attached to it anyway. I free myself from it, and you live a life of happiness now. Immediately, you become happy and content with the dunya and your condition. تمام؟ سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.